Welcome back to this video series where I'm trying to restore this guitar that has been around for 120 years. Today is a very important day because I feel like I'm getting to the peak of the mountain. It's not that the slope is going to be always down from now on, but the guitar came to the workshop in the first place because it had cracks in the top, and that is exactly what I'm going to start fixing today. And if you follow the series, you know that this has been an easy road, but I'm finally there. And the feeling that I'm reaching a checkpoint makes me willing to continue with it. But even now it's better to test than to make mistakes. So that is why, while I'm going to make the small pieces of wood that are going to be the reinforcement for the crack, in the back of my head I'm thinking how I'm going to apply pressure, where I'm going to apply that pressure. How many reinforcements do I need? Am I going to make the glue a little bit more soft or with a high viscosity? Those things I've been thinking about for months, but even now when I'm so close to finally glue the crack, I need to check everything again and again to make sure that I'm going to do the right thing. So now, with the help of a little bit of mathematics, I'm deciding the placement of those reinforcements that I'm going to make. The wood that I'm going to use was brought to me by my colleague Ilán, and it has been dried for decades. It's the same species that the top of the guitar, so the sound is not going to be affected, more or less. You always have the feeling that this is going to affect the acoustics, but on the other hand, this is the only way to make the restoration, and you have to make it as close as possible to the original. So for the little pieces of wood, I had two considerations in mind. One, they have to be made from the same wood to preserve the tonality of the guitar. Also, they have to be as small as possible. I knew that the crack would stay in place without any reinforcement. That already happened in this restoration, and because the top of the guitar is not flat, I have to match the curvature of it. So making it as small as possible makes that task easier. Given a modern acoustic guitar with a flat top, these pieces of wood for sure were bigger, but in this case I think this is the best way to go. If this fix lasts for 120 years and the next luthier thinks that it's better to make it bigger, I'm going to be happy with that. So at the end I decided to make square pieces and more or less 8 mm per side. The other important thing that you have to consider is that the grain of the blocks have to be placed 90 degrees from the grain of the top. You can't do it along the grain because the wood cracks precisely along the grain. So if the block is in parallel, it's probably that it's going to break as well. The part where I'm cutting and shaping and sanding the blocks at the end is the easiest part of the business. And finally, testing their final position in the guitar. Wait a minute. That's better. So, after all these months, this is the final test. I'm going to place the little blocks. I'm going to install all the go bars, the clamp that is going to make the lateral pressure, and I'm going to test it with no glue involved. This is going to be the final taste of what is going to be the final glue. After all this time, is a little bit difficult for me to hold the horses and not start gluing everything right there. But I know firsthand that rust is not your friend in this case. Okay, so this is the final test before gluing. Some things to see around here is this row of go bars. The purpose of them is to apply vertical force. So when the lateral force is applied with the big clamp, the top of the guitar is not going to bend, it's going to stay in place. And I'm just going to apply just enough pressure to close the gap. So I have to be very gentle with it. Underneath the top of the guitar I'm going to play box paper, because I don't like the idea to have the top of the guitar glued with the solera. I have to sand the little blocks in order to match the curve of the top and the solera. So that way, when I release the clamping pressure, the curve along the crack is not going to be flat, but it's going to respect the curvature of the whole thing. I'm going to try to give it in one shot. I have to be quick because the glue loses its properties very quickly. I'm sorry, but I'm going to do this off camera because it's so delicate that I'd like to be focused just on the task I have ahead. So see you on the other side. I'm very happy because it worked. The pieces of wood are firmly attached to the top. Yeah, they are not 90 degrees perfect and right in the middle. When I press with the go bars, the small pieces tend to move a little bit, but for me it's okay. There is a little bit of glue residue all over the place that I have to clean, but this side is looking good. And take a look at this. This is amazing. There's a little spot here that is not perfectly even. This area here is a perfect match. And this here is a little bit misaligned too, but I'm not concerned about it. I will remove eventually the bridge, and that is going to be a perfect time to correct this. I just need to soften a little bit the glue and make it perfectly even, and it will be great. It's hard to see on camera, but the bow is there. Yeah, just like here. It is correct. Not perfect, but everything will fit perfectly in the future. Now I'm going to focus on this one. It's impossible to see on camera, but there are actually two cracks in here. One here and one here. So I'm going to remove this temporary reinforcement, and I'm going to place something like this, but a little bit longer, to cover both because they are so close. And I think that if I place only one in here, it will make the job for both cracks. This is the reinforcement that I've just placed, and it's going to be there forever. It went very well. Just a little bit of cleaning around it and it's going to be okay. Let's resume what I have done and what is left to be done in this area here. So the cracks that are already fixed are those in the right side, and it's very curious because there were 3 cracks in here and actually 4 cracks in here, but they were all fixed in a different way, and that is because they were all different. This one here, for example, was open, meaning that the 2 sides of the crack were completely separated. So with the wooden reinforcement I'm looking for extra strength. That wasn't the case in these 2 cracks. These 2 cracks weren't open. So this one was fixed with just a piece of cloth, because the strength of the linen is going to be good enough. There is no need for wooden reinforcement here. And in this case there were 2 cracks, one here and one here. So instead of using a piece of linen, I decided to use a wooden block a little bit more wide than the usual you should use. That way I could cover both cracks in one shot. This is an example of something important for me. The point is that every step that I made in this guitar had to be completely sure for the reason that I do it. Have said it before, I am not an expert in restoration, and I need to feel confident about what I'm doing with a strong criteria about it. So next is going to be this side here. There is this one open crack here. This is important because I have to decide if to close it just like this one or to make an insert. So more about this later on. And this crack here is also curious because it's almost all along the top, but it's not completely open. It's open right here, but it closes right here, right to the end. Maybe it's a good idea to make it in few steps, closing this and then removing this and trying to close it, instead of doing it in one shot. More about that in the next video. Nothing more to say here, but thank you for all of you to follow this series, and see you on the next video. Bye.